Breaking. What you're about to hear is the kind of moment the political class fears, the kind of confrontation they rehearse endlessly to avoid. Imagine this, a supposedly safe BBC evening programme. Soft lighting, calm music, the familiar rhythm of polite questions and rehearsed answers. A prime minister at ease, a celebrity guest booked for ratings, not resistance. And then everything goes wrong. The producers thought they were getting Tom Hardy, the movie star. What walked onto that set was Tom Hardy, the working-class kid who never forgot where he came from. The plan was simple: a few questions about films, a laugh or two, maybe a polite nod to public service, a clean broadcast everyone could forget by morning. But live television has a weakness. You can't edit truth once it's spoken. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Britain Daily. It's completely free, and it helps us keep bringing you the hard-hitting stories that matter. Back to the chaos. From the moment Hardy sat down, the atmosphere shifted. The cameras picked it up before anyone else did. The stiffness, the pause that lingered just a second too long. The Prime Minister's well-practiced smile. Steady, rehearsed, political. Hardy didn't smile back. Instead of playing along, he leaned forward. No theatrics, no shouting, just quiet intensity, the most dangerous kind. I wanted to look you in the eye when I asked you this. Silence. Not the polite studio kind. The uh-oh kind. He didn't talk about ideology. He didn't quote party lines. He talked about people, real ones, named ones, lives reduced to footnotes in policy briefings. A pensioner choosing between heat and medication. A business owner laying off staff after 15 years. A veteran sleeping rough in the capital of one of the richest countries on earth. Each example landed harder than the last. The Prime Minister did what Prime Ministers are trained to do. He reached for language, process, complexity, difficult decisions. Hardy cut straight through it. Don't give me the politician answer. That's when the mask slipped. Just for a second. The cameras caught it. Irritation, disbelief, the shock of someone realising they'd lost control of the room. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was an indictment. Behind the scenes, producers panicked. Signals were sent, commercial breaks discussed. But you can't mute a moment once millions are watching. And then Hardy said, the sentence no scriptwriter would ever allow. You're protected from the consequences of your own decisions. And people can see it. That was the turning point. Because this wasn't about left versus right. It was power versus accountability. And everyone watching knew it. This was no longer a TV segment. It was a reckoning. And it had only just begun. By now, the atmosphere in the studio was unrecognisable. This wasn't a BBC chat show anymore. It felt like a courtroom where the accused suddenly realised the script had been thrown out and the jury was watching live. The Prime Minister tried to regain footing. You could see it happening in real time. The posture straightened, the tone hardened, the language shifted back into familiar territory. Mandates, institutions, democratic processes, the safe vocabulary of power. It didn't work. Hardy shook his head slowly, almost sadly. That's the problem, he said. You talk about systems. People are living inside the consequences. The host attempted an interruption. Light, apologetic, clearly panicked. Let's keep this respectful. Hardy didn't even turn his head. Respect, he implied without saying it, had already been broken, long before this broadcast. The Prime Minister pivoted again, this time attacking the messenger. It was an old tactic, but a dangerous one. He questioned whether actors should be lecturing elected leaders, whether celebrity opinions should carry weight in serious political debate. Fatal move. Hardy didn't bristle. He didn't raise his voice. He smiled, briefly, but there was no humour in it. You're right, he said. I'm just an actor. A pause. But I grew up in a council flat. I watched my parents juggle bills. I watched neighbours disappear when rents went up and services disappeared. I know what Britain looks like when the cameras aren't here. The contrast was brutal. Public school versus council estate. Career politics versus lived experience. The studio audience shifted uncomfortably. Even some of the staff behind the cameras stopped moving. This was the kind of moment media training warns you about. The kind where any reaction makes things worse. The Prime Minister tried to broaden the frame. He spoke about nuance, trade-offs, competing interests, the difficulty of governing a modern nation. Hardy answered with one line that landed like a punch to the chest. There's nothing nuanced about taking from people who have nothing and protecting those who already have everything. Then came the word no one expected to hear on a BBC evening programme. Corruption, not shouted, not dramatic, spoken plainly. The Prime Minister's face flushed. His advisors, just off camera, began moving. One producer could be seen gesturing frantically toward the host. Wrap this up now. But live television is a trap. Cutting away would confirm everything Hardy was saying. The host tried again, desperate this time. "So, Tom, your next film?" Hardy turned slowly, eyes cold. "You think that matters right now?" The question hung in the air. "This country is cracking, and you want celebrity gossip. That's the problem. Distraction instead of truth." That was when Hardy did something extraordinary. He stopped addressing the Prime Minister altogether. He turned directly to the camera, straight to Britain. "If you're watching this and struggling, you're not crazy. You're not failing. The system is failing you, and the people running it know it." You could almost hear the collective intake of breath across the country. The Prime Minister muttered something about populism, about rhetoric, about responsibility. Hardy barely acknowledged it. Calling reality populism doesn't make it disappear. Security appeared at the edges of the set. Careful, hesitant, unsure how to remove someone without proving his point in real time. Hardy stood calmly. "This is how it always ends," he said. "Someone tells the truth, and suddenly it's inappropriate. Tomorrow they'll say I don't understand governance." He wasn't wrong. The establishment playbook was already opening. But before anyone could stop him, Hardy delivered one final line. Quiet, controlled, devastating. "You don't disagree with me because I'm wrong. You disagree because admitting I'm right would mean admitting you failed." And then he walked, not escorted, not dragged. He walked off on his own terms. Behind him, the Prime Minister sat frozen. No script left, no smile to hide behind. The reckoning was no longer hypothetical, and outside that studio, the country was already reacting. The broadcast ended, but the damage had only just begun. Within minutes, clips flooded social media, not edited, not framed, raw. The silence, the stare. The moment the Prime Minister lost control of the room. Hashtags exploded, millions of views in hours. People weren't arguing about party politics anymore. They were talking about truth, and that terrified Westminster. By the next morning, the machine kicked into gear. Major outlets didn't lead with what was said. They led with how it was said. Inappropriate, unhelpful, unbecoming. The words were carefully chosen, not to dispute Hardy's claims, but to delegitimize his right to make them. Political commentators lined up on breakfast TV asking the same question on repeat. Should celebrities involve themselves in politics? Notice what they never asked. They didn't ask whether pensioners are choosing between heat and medication. They didn't ask why small businesses are collapsing. They didn't ask why public trust is at historic lows. They attacked the messenger, because the message landed. The BBC issued a statement within hours, apologising for the unexpected tone of the interview and promising to review booking procedures. Translation: this will never be allowed to happen again. Behind the scenes, pressure mounted. Sources leaked that government aides were furious, not because the claims were false, but because they were said out loud on live television by someone immune to their usual pressure tactics. Tom Hardy didn't backtrack. No apology, no clarification tour, no PR walk back. Instead, he posted a single message online. "I said what millions feel. If that makes people uncomfortable, good." That post reached further than any press conference. Meanwhile, Downing Street tried to regain control. The Prime Minister released a carefully worded statement about respecting differing views while standing by difficult decisions. It landed like a damp sponge. Too late. The moment had already escaped them, because something deeper had cracked open. This wasn't about one actor or one interview. It was about legitimacy, about whether those in power still understand the country they claim to lead, or whether politics has become a sealed bubble, insulated from consequence. For years, people had been told they were exaggerating, that things weren't that bad, that Britain wasn't broken. Then someone with nothing to gain and nothing to lose said it plainly, on the biggest stage possible, and millions recognised the truth instantly. That's why this moment mattered, not because Tom Hardy is famous, but because he wasn't afraid. Afraid of losing donors, afraid of losing access, afraid of being frozen out by the media. He walked into that studio with no script and no safety net, and forced a conversation the establishment has spent years avoiding. Now the question is simple. Does this fade into the noise, or does it become a line in the sand? Because every attempt to bury this only proves the point Hardy made, that the system protects itself first, always. The cameras stopped rolling, but the public didn't stop watching. And once people see behind the curtain, they don't forget. They remember who spoke plainly, who hid behind language, who showed courage, and who reached for damage control. The reckoning didn't end in that studio. It started there.